Hi, Justin.
Hey, good to meet you.
What is the difference in the soundtrack Babylon with other works you have with Damien Chazelle?
What's the difference? I mean, the biggest difference is that this movie just needed its own sound. It needed,
All right.
the movie has a feel of its own. It definitely has a style and a feel, and likewise, the music needed its own sound. So, one thing that became clear from just reading the script and then talking to Damien is how wild and unhinged this movie was going to be at times. So getting to create music that was really aggressive and really like almost going off the rails at times was really fun. We've done jazz and we've done other things in the past, but it was more traditional. It was a little more kind of pleasant. And this movie we got to really have screaming saxes and wailing trumpets and the feeling of bands kind of losing control, and that's something we haven't done. We also just got to do so many, I recorded kazoos and slide whistles and party horns and some of this music. Yeah. I recorded an erhu, which is a Chinese string instrument. There are just a lot of circus sounds and carnival sounds. There are just a lot of sounds that belong to this movie that we haven't used before. So I got to draw from like a very different sort of palette.
Did you have some inspiration for this movie soundtrack?
Yeah, so I was listening to, even though the movie takes place in the 20s and a lot of the music is either a jazz band of the time or a jazz band sequences, score cues scored by that same instrumentation, even though that was the instrumentation very often. I was trying to very deliberately not listen to 20s jazz because we didn't want this music to sound like 20s jazz. We wanted it to be more rock and roll inspired, to have a sort of like drive and anger sometimes, and so I was listening to a lot of like rock and roll riffs and imagining what could this sort of riff-based music sound like if those riffs were played by brass, by a horn section, instead of a distorted guitar. I was listening to a lot of dance music, a lot of like house and EDM, things that had a real driving sort of kick or 808 that gets you wanting to move, things with a dance hi-hat, things modern dance music that would give you that feeling of like a riser and then a drop, and those feelings of anticipation that just explode and get you wanting to dance. So I was being inspired by some of those feels, but again, transposing those feelings into instrumentation that was usually more appropriate for this era. So it's a little, there's old meets new in some way, and I hope it just has a sound that is its own thing and that just sounds like Babylon.
I've never done nothing except disappoint people my whole life. But I made it on my terms, not theirs.
Did you want to experience something different in the future in terms of music, like Babylon and First Man? I think First Man is very different from your other works. Do you want to experience something specific in music?
There's nothing specific I want to do, but I do hope, like you say, to keep doing things that are different. I hope that, any movie Damien makes is going to have a very specific identity. It's going to have its own. La La Land feels very different than First Man, and Babylon feels very different than anything that he's made. So the movies will be very specific. I trust that. And then I hope that the scores will be very specific. I'd love to, do some genres we haven't done before, sci-fi or something else. But there's nothing specific that I'm like dying to do. I just hope that each score I can learn some new things, learn some new techniques or instruments or tools, and just keep expanding and growing and trying things that I haven't done.
Why the music is so important in the movies?
I think the music for movies, it can do a lot. It can tell you something. It can underline something that's already there. It can help you feel what the movie's trying to help you feel. If you're feeling sad, or if the scene is sad, if the scene is hopeful, is wistful, the music can definitely accentuate that and help you feel it. It can also do the opposite, and it can show you something that's not in the scene at all. It can cut against what's in the scene, and maybe the scene is is really happy, but the music is telling you something bad's about to happen, or the music is telling you this love story seems good, but I don't know, it's something, this might not work out. The music can like have a sort of pain in it that is getting at the fact that, you know, cutting against what we might see. So music can do a lot of different things, and it's really just up to the filmmaker and the composer and how they want to handle and what they want to try to accomplish with the music.
To wrap this interview, what is your favorite composer of a movie?
I mean, that's so hard, but it would be impossible not to say John Williams is my favorite, just because the sheer number of totally iconic themes and scores that he's written, just unforgettable. You know, E.T. and Jurassic Park and Indiana Jones and Star Wars and Harry Potter. It's just one after another. That these melodies, these themes that you never ever forget, and you could hear them 20 years later and you know exactly what movie they came from. And nobody's done that like John Williams.
And I'm going to bed.